Ooh. So now I just want to say how grateful we are to have, I never know the right order to do this, but the Dr. Reverend Captain Janine Burns, who is just a part of our family. And we're so happy to have you here this morning to speak for us. Thank you, Janine.
Thank you so much. And I'm always delighted to be a part of the New Thought Spiritual Center of Eastern Long Island. I consider you my spiritual family. And I also want to welcome everyone to the Zoom meeting today who's new. Give a shout out to the new people. And today I'm speaking about the innate truth. The fundamental principle of practical spirituality is that there's one ultimate loving energy that is present in all that exists. Some call this power the universe, God, spirit, source, infinite intelligence, or the creator of all that is. And in studying practical spirituality, we learn the innate truth that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. We learn that we have the awesome power to create and that we do so with our thinking. We learn that whatever we entertain vividly enough in our surface mind eventually passes into the deeper mind, the subconscious mind. And through the law of mind, also called the law of attraction, we draw and attract people, circumstances, and events which correspond to these subconscious thought patterns. Practical spirituality also teaches much about our consciousness. And consciousness is the totality of our beingness that we bring to the table of life. It includes our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our values, our attitudes, our words, our actions, and our reactions. And so our job as spiritual beings having a physical experience is to develop these thoughts, feelings, beliefs, values, attitudes, words, and actions and reactions so that we see the innate spiritual truth in all things. Are you familiar with the word pronoia? Pronoia is the antithesis of paranoia. Pronoia is the true belief that the universe is conspiring in your favor. And so a person who's experienced pronoia feels that the world around them is conspiring to do them good. And the philosopher, Dr. Ernest Holmes, wrote on page 46 of his book, The Science of Mind, having faith in an infinite possibility and its desire and its ability to do for us all that we shall ever need to have done. And that is pronoia. Pronoia. It can be very difficult to hold the belief in pronoia in the times that we're living in. And if you think too much about the circumstances in the world, it can be really overwhelming. We're in the midst of a pandemic. Many or some people on the Zoom call were hit really hard by the recent hurricane or tropical storm. There's lines down low electricity, and it's really hot and humid. And have you noticed how much food prices have escalated? Did you know there is a severe worldwide problem of human trafficking? Did you know that billions of people around the world don't have access to safely managed drinking water? There are many people suffering from psychological and economic depression. So how do we deal with this? We'll have a great metaphor for you. Once upon a time, there was a Persian king, and I Googled this, and it mentioned that this was a Persian king, and he seemed to be tossed about by life. He would get upset and stressed out when things went wrong. And being a king, things often can go wrong. When things went well, he got all puffed up with his ego and all filled up with himself. The people around him catered to him and they indulged in him. And he didn't like what that felt like either because it wasn't authentic. The king wanted a philosophy. He wanted a philosophy that he could turn to no matter what the circumstances he found himself in. He wanted something that would bring him greater peace, calm, and solace. So he called upon all the wise men and all the sages in the kingdom, and he commanded them to come together and come up with a very simple and short phrase that he could have inscribed on the inside of his ring. And so this way, whenever he looked at his ring, he would remember the phrase, and it would give him comfort in times of trouble and perspective in times of plenty. So the sages and the wise men, they worked tirelessly day by day, and they finally came up with a saying which they had inscribed inside the king's ring. And the saying was, "And this too shall pass." and this too shall pass. Maybe not in our timeline, maybe not the way that we thought it would or think it should, but surely this too shall pass. You know, sometimes we have to push against life. And at first, when I thought about that, I didn't like that idea about pushing against life. It seemed so like aggressive. Then I thought about my boat. And when I'm at the helm on my boat, how often I have to push. Sometimes I have to push against the tide or the current. Sometimes I have to push against the wind and the waves. And I believe that when we observe nature, we can see the presence and power of God in action. And so I've come to realize that just in nature, when we need to push, we've got to push against all these seeming troubles that we may be experiencing in the manifest universe, any troubles that we may be experiencing in our physical experience. So how do we push? Well, the acronym for push is pray until something happens. When things seem to be going wrong, push. Pray until something happens. If your money is tight and bills are due, push. If you're in the middle of a pandemic, push. If your electricity is out for 5 days and you think you're going to melt, push. Push, push, push. Pray until something happens. And when you pray, you more and more develop your awareness of your connection to the creator of all that is. And that's the greatest purpose of prayer, to bring our conscious awareness into the presence of God. Prayer changes us. It changes our attitudes. It changes conditions in our life. It changes our thoughts, our feelings, our words, our actions. Prayer lifts us up in consciousness to our knowing our oneness with God. And as the offspring of God, we're one with divine wisdom, one with divine love, one with divine peace, divine substance, harmony, energy, divine joy, divine power, divine freedom. And we're one with divine truth. And this is our divine inheritance. The important thing to remember is to keep on keeping on through adversity. Keep your faith strong. Keep your expectations high. Affirm that God's law of good is continuously operating in your life and affairs. And as you go about your daily business, continually decree and declare divine order. Simply say, divine order is taking place in my life and affairs. Divine order is taking place in my life and affairs. Divine order is taking place in my life and affairs. And so when it comes to our daily experience, it's important to be mindfully grateful. And to be mindfully grateful means to consciously move through life with a feeling of appreciation, as well as having an attitude of gratitude for our oneness with the creator of all that is. Joel Goldsmith, are you familiar with Joel Goldsmith? He called this practicing the presence. And in fact, he wrote a book entitled Practicing the Presence. So this is the mindset. This is the attitude that sees beyond any current realities or current conditions directly into the hidden potentialities of life. This is the mindset that knows this too shall pass. This is the mindset that pushes, prays until something happens. And the truth is that no matter what is happening in the manifest universe that seems to be troublesome, we can choose to think independently of the existing circumstances. We can choose to think into the realm of potential and possibilities. We're always in an evolutionary growth cycle, which means that no matter how our lives have grown to be, as we are open and receptive to experiencing the fullness of God, of our being, there is always more possibilities of divine good. Always more possibilities. Pay attention to the synchronicity. Walk in gratitude. Continue to push. Life is always for the greater expansion and expression of itself. There is always more expansion to do. There's always greater and greater possibilities that are there for you as you are open and receptive and practice the presence of God. It's our divine destiny to demonstrate this possibility, this innate truth that's in all of us. We were born to bring the unformed infinite potentiality and spiritual substance into this physical experience so that the divine idea of life might fulfill itself. And because we are practicing the presence and consciously expressing our oneness with God, then the divine circuitry in life is fulfilled and complete. And how cool is that? I call upon you this morning. Continually raise your consciousness. Practice the presence of God by affirming, I am the light, I am the love, I am the truth. I put it in the chat. I am the light, I am the love, I am the truth. I am the light, I am the love, I am the truth. Affirm it. And as we continue to develop our consciousness and practice the present, then what happens is our personal energy goes forth and becomes a radiant light in the world, and we fulfill our divine destiny. We were born to bring spirit, God, divine energy to this earthly experience in our own perfect way. And that's what we are doing as we are choosing to be the light, choosing to be love, and choosing to be the truth. And so begins your lesson.
Thank you, Janine. I'm gonna now, I can't seem to, how do I stop recording?